Anyway, New York Times says that Obama is most likely going to win the battleground states of Florida, Ohio, and Virginia. That's the New York Times. However, Stu and I have been working on, Stu is the executive producer of my radio program, and we've been working on some different theories. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think it's going to be a sweep. I asked him to, because he's a stats guy, to either prove or disprove me wrong as much as he possibly can. I know this is just conjecture here, but what'd you find today, Stu?
Well, we looked through some of the Tea Party races, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Some of these races really do have these large polling gaps. It's not universal, but it definitely does seem to show up from time to time. And really, what supports your theory probably best is the odd sampling that's going on in these polls. Dick Morris, for example, threw out a few states the other day, and his analysis was pretty interesting. The New York Times poll showed that Florida is going to go to Obama +1, okay? But in the sample, it's a +7 Democratic sample, which is much larger than the average from the last 4 elections, which actually favors Republicans in Florida by 1 point.
Wow.
So you figure it's an 8-point swing towards the Democrats in this sample. The correct poll results, according to Dick Morris in moving this data, would be Romney in a 7-point victory. The same thing sort of shows up in Virginia, where the New York Times poll shows that Obama is going to win by 2 there. But the sample is a Democratic +8 sample. Now, the average for the last 4 elections is Republicans +1. So it's a large overstatement again to the Democratic side by 9 points. And you flesh all those numbers out, shows Romney winning by 7. Which would be, those are 2 states he absolutely has to have. I mean, you're pretty much going to toss this election if he doesn't get those 2. Ohio is much closer. It's a much more difficult victory for Romney. The New York Times shows Obama up by 5, which is on the high end of the poll results. But the sample size, again, shows Democrats +8. The average of the last 4 elections is only Democrats +2. This is swinging towards the Democrats by 6 points. You flesh all that out, you get a slight 1-point victory for Mitt Romney, which he really does need in Ohio.
Tell me about the early voting in Ohio.
The early voting was really encouraging, I think. This isn't going to look so encouraging right off the bat, but look at these numbers. This is from the 2008 election. Early voting at this time, Democrats had 580,813 early votes. The Republicans had 448,357. And you're thinking, okay, well, this is an issue. This is what we have for this year. So a lead for Democrats. How can that be positive?
Yeah.
Well, what about the difference between the 2008 election to 2012? You have a difference of 181,275 votes less for Democrats so far. And you have an increase for Republicans of 75,858. So the total difference, when you boil all this down, is a Republican net gain of 257,000 votes. That is about as much as the entire gap between Barack Obama and John McCain in 2008.
And that was a big gap.
That was a huge gap, and that's just early voting.
Yeah.
So that is a really encouraging set of numbers. And that's the sort of thing that if Ohio, if Romney can win, Florida, Virginia, and Ohio, those 3 states, it would be very surprising if he wasn't able to pull away one other small state and win the election. With that much momentum, he's there. And your philosophy, if that kicks in and he starts winning these points by 6 or 7 points, I mean, it's going to be a much larger margin.
It's going to be a very good night. And beginning this weekend, our news staff from New York all comes down. They're starting to populate this whole studio. We have all kinds of things that are going to be going on Tuesday night. This is the place you want to be for election coverage. We're going to have all of the accurate counts. We will have them as fast as everybody else. We will have a very good cast for you to be able to watch and get all the information. You're not going to miss a thing. This is going to be the place you're going to want to be next Tuesday. Make sure you join us. Back in a minute. Thanks, Stu.